Hello there. Ah, nice to be with you again this week. This is the Image series with John Seneya, and of course, we're on Click TV Africa. And like we always say, you can DM me on social media. You can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, of course. Yes, I got it right. I always had a problem with reeling out those platforms, but you got it right now. And of course, this program, like you know, is specially designed for our friends in the small to medium sized enterprises, our church ministers, our media executives, marketing executives, and all of those people that you know would interface with their clients. So, let's go. Today's topic is talking about our hands. Yes, our hands have to do the talking for us today. So, what do we do with our hands? That is the topic. You will find that whenever you have to speak, you need your hands to actually complete the sense or drive the point home a little harder. So, if I'm counting numbers, if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it won't still be as effective as when I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're talking hands today, and what do you do with your hands? Sometimes your hands will get in the way. You don't know what to do to it. You don't know where to place your hands. So I'll tell you what to do, where to put your hands when you are speaking. So um, now let's imagine that you are at a presentation, okay? And you need to reel out a few facts to your audience. What do you do with your hands? You find that you need to tag your hands. Yes, tag is the word. Tag your hands to the sense that you're making. Like I said earlier, if you're talking figures, you can count with your hands. And note that my one is my thumb, not that. Because we think, or we've agreed as public speaking coaches, that pointing at your audience doesn't go down well. I'm sure you don't like me pointing at you that way. So when we go one, that's two, that's three, that's four, and that is five. Okay? Now, the importance of the hand is this. When you show your hands openly to your audience, it's like saying to them, hey, look at me. I don't have any arms. I don't have anything to hurt you. I'm as open as you would love me to. So you need to always gesticulate or say things opening your arms rather than folding them. So this gesture, for instance, is not the best for a public speaker. When you put your hands in your pocket, it's not the best for a speaker. So we know that the problem we have is that most times people don't quite figure out what they want to do with, what they want to do with their hands. So they need to start improvising all sorts of things. Now, and at the same time, you know, you have to coordinate your thoughts. You know, when you're throwing your hands left and right and center, you know, it distracts you from what you're thinking. So it's difficult for you to put all of that together. But if you carefully, like I said earlier, tag the sense you're making to the action of your hands, right? So that both of them work together to reinforce the point that you're driving home, then you're good. Okay? Now, let's move on to one other thing I need to talk to you. There are certain actions that, when repeatedly done, like they're choreographed, okay, they don't go down well with the audience, like cutting in the air, right? Cutting incessantly, punching in the air. I know that the pastors and the church ministers will take me up on this because they can afford to be a little more dramatic. But we're talking general standards now. It's better for you to reduce the number of times you cut cut left, cut right. It doesn't really help pushing your point home. So we want to maintain a natural stance most of the time. If you see what I just did, okay, I just did that. I opened my arms. I, you know, I didn't let it get in the way of what I'm saying. But when you start doing this and that, so that is one. Uh, Sometimes you also would be talking about little things and large things, okay? So we advise that when you're talking about things that are little in number, you can do that. You can pinch, all right? And when it's large, you can do that. Also remember the scope of the movement of your hands, right? It shouldn't go beyond this line that I'm drawing from your shoulder to the top of your groin and that way. So, what I'm saying effectively is that when you start throwing your arms here and there, it doesn't do well for your public speaking. So you keep it within the scope of that square that I drew for you earlier, and I hope you remember that. And I hope you'll also remember that it's the Image series with John Seneya. Every week, Wednesdays, 12 noon, we stream live. And like they always say to me, remember to tell them to DM you on any of our social platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Yes, I got it right. So I'll be hoping to get your questions. As a matter of fact, I want to thank those people who have sent in questions for clarification and stuff like that. I've really enjoyed every question, and I hope you've thoroughly learned from the responses that you've received. Now, to help your audience to track what you're saying, you need to hold out one hand, to describe the benefits of an issue, just like I'm doing. You have a point, you hold out one hand, and you do that. Please avoid covering your face, avoid going too low down. You can do that once in a while. Now, the other hand may be a problem. You can keep it out of the way or put it on the lectern, okay? And when you put it on the lectern, please don't let your nervousness show. Sometimes we grab our lectern so hard that it's very obvious that we are nervous. Remember that I said to you that there is no public speaker that is not nervous. It's the way you conceal it that sets you out from the others. Okay? Now, hand gesticulation is nonverbal. I'm sure you know. And I want you to remember once again that it complements whatever you say. Right. So we're talking about being natural. Be natural with your hands. Don't throw your hands in the air. Don't go beyond the little square that I drew. Okay? Most of the time. Remember also that there is no hard and fast rule. Okay? Me, John Seneya, sometimes I have to break the rules as well. But the important thing is that you get your hands to fully complement what you're talking about. Okay? Now, let's look at figures. I think I talked about figures earlier on. When we look at figures, if you're talking about figures below 5, okay? Below 5, you can gesticulate, or indicate in this fashion, all right? Or when you're going to figures below, above 5, then you can do that, okay? To express to your audience that, you're talking about a high figure. Now, let's look at outstretched hand gestures. When you have your hands outstretched, remember to open them, so that you can, at the same time, let your client or your audience know that, hey, look at me. No arms, no weapons, I'm good, all right? So that openness is very important for your expression with your hands. Now, going too wide, like I said, or too high with your arms too often can be distracting, just like I'm doing now, Too wide, too high, too high, too wide, all right? That could be distracting. Of course, we see people so many times on stage and they're throwing their arms left and right, too wide and all of that. It could be distracting. Yes, the comedians and the actors will take me up on that. You see, we've given creative license to some people because of the drama behind what they're saying. Yes, they're allowed to do so many things. So I'm going to exempt the comedians from this, okay? But and pastors, church ministers, I'll exempt them from excessively throwing their arms around. But when you're in a corporate setting, right, we expect you to do it within limits. Now, one of the few repeated no-nos that we've had about is pointing, which I talked about earlier. Remember that man in the U.S., the president of the United States? He points a lot. He points a lot, and quite frankly, the rules don't allow you to do that. Well, possibly because he's the president of the United States, he's able to get away with it. So the point I'm making is, don't point at your audience, okay? You can, yeah, but don't point at your audience. It's quite rude. Audiences hate it. You're on to the image series with John Seneya, and we're on Click TV Africa. And like I said before, every Wednesday we stream live, and you can DM me on our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, on Facebook, and we're on Twitter. So keep your questions coming. I'll be very happy to answer all of them. Now, I said earlier that there are no hard and fast rules about this. You're allowed to make a few mistakes, but please, as much as possible, keep within those rules. Now, if you find that you've done the wrong thing with your hands, you finally realize that you've been doing the wrong thing with your hands, right? Just reset. You can reset by dropping your hands and then starting all over again, okay? So please, just don't chastise yourself for doing the wrong thing. Just go back and reset. Now, speakers who clasp their hands too often, especially in the groin area, are not doing it right. So if you do that, that is not the right stance, okay? You're expected to put your hands in the right place, which is either by your side or on the lectern, within limits, within that square that I drew for you, okay? And that will be it. They call the groin clasping, it's called the fig. The fig. If you remember the fig leaf is that one that our first mother, Eve, that she had. She had a fig leaf to cover her vitals. So when you do that, it's called the fig leaf posture. And the fig leaf posture, it indicates that you're trying to hide something. Remember when she ate the apple and she realized that she was naked? She had to cover up. So your audience doesn't want you to cover up, okay? They want you to remain as open as possible. So, avoid repetitive gestures. I said that earlier on. Don't do the same, run the same gestures over and over again. That will not be right. Remember also to stop chopping in the air, chopping, karate chops, and you can just keep it to one moment or two. Now, the lectern is there most of the time, or some of the time, for you to use. And if you start grabbing on your lectern, it also shows that you're nervous, or that you're blundering, or that you're not comfortable. Then also, hiding your hands isn't a good idea on the podium. Hiding your hands behind the podium, so please let your hands show. Now, what to do with your hands is what we've been talking about for the last few minutes. I'm sure that you've enjoyed the program. I would once again remind you that this is the image series with John Seneya on Click TV Africa. DM us on our social platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'll see you again next week, live on Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Bye for now.